welcome to our deep dive, into deep work. We're going way beyond just skimming the surface here.
Right.
We've got Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. And we're really trying to extract the insights that can help you cultivate this valuable skill.
It's like upgrading your mental operating system, right?
Yeah.
We're going to dissect the science, the philosophy behind deep work,
Yeah.
but also give you like the practical strategies that can make you a productivity powerhouse
Right.
in this world of distractions.
Okay, so the book opens with a pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
The value of deep work is actually increasing in our economy.
Right.
This seems counterintuitive
It does seem that way at first glance.
in our always-on world.
But think about it.
Yeah.
The people who can master complex skills, shut out distractions and produce at an elite level,
Right.
those are the ones who really stand out.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating value that's hard to replicate.
And Newport gives the example of Carl Jung, the famous psychologist who built a tower in the woods
Oh, yeah.
just to escape distractions and focus on his writing.
That's commitment.
That's some serious commitment.
It really is. And what's so interesting about that is that it highlights the psychological benefits of isolation for deep work.
Mm-hmm.
Jung understood that to wrestle with these big ideas,
Right.
he needed to separate himself from the everyday noise.
Yeah.
And think about how that translates to our modern work environments,
No. Open offices, constant notifications.
Yeah, they're practically designed to prevent deep work.
Yeah. And then there's the example of Jason Ben,
Mm-hmm.
who went from a $40,000 a year finance job to a $100,000 a year programmer in just 6 months.
Wow.
All because he dedicated himself to mastering coding in total isolation.
That's powerful.
So it's a
Yeah.
powerful example of how deep work translates into real-world success.
Real world results.
Yeah.
But also how our culture often works against us. Newport talks about this rise of what he calls the cult of the internet.
Right.
This idea that anything internet related is inherently good.
Yeah. Are we really any more productive because we respond to emails instantly or maintain a constant social media presence?
Right.
I'm starting to think all that shallow work is actually holding us back.
That's the crux of it.
Yeah.
Studies show that companies are losing millions of dollars because of shallow work.
Wow.
We're drowning in emails, meetings, distractions.
You're right.
And it's preventing us from doing the deep, focused work that truly moves the needle.
Okay, so this is when Newport's principle of least resistance comes in.
Yeah.
He argues that we tend to gravitate towards the easiest behaviors,
The path of least resistance.
even if they're not the most effective in the long run.
Exactly. Answering that email right away,
Right.
gives us that little dopamine hit.
Right.
But it also pulls us out of flow and fragments our attention.
Yeah.
Think about your own work habits.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you giving into those easy distractions?
Mm-hmm. Oof, that hits close to home.
Yeah.
I know I'm guilty of checking social media or browsing news websites when I should be focusing on a task.
We all do it.
Yeah.
It's the default setting in our hyper-connected world.
Right.
But here's the irony.
Okay.
Deep work isn't just about economic success.
Right.
It's also about being happier.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Newport argues that deep work promotes a state of flow, a neurological state linked to happiness and fulfillment.
Right.
How does that work?
When you're truly engaged in deep work,
Yeah.
your brain shuts down its default mode network.
Okay.
That's the part of your brain that's active when you're mind-wandering, worrying or ruminating on negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually linked to feelings of unhappiness.
Okay.
Deep work silences that inner critic
Right.
and allows you to be fully present in the task at hand.
So it's like deep work is a kind of mindfulness practice.
It is.
It's about being fully absorbed in the present moment. And this feeling of deep engagement is actually more satisfying than the constant distractions of shallow work.
Exactly. And it's not just about the neurological benefits.
Yeah.
Deep work also forces you to develop valuable skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's about mastery in craftsmanship,
Right.
like a blacksmith forging a sword or a musician mastering an instrument.
Newport even compares deep work to the satisfaction people find in traditional skilled trades.
He does.
There's a sense of purpose and meaning that comes from honing a craft and applying it at an elite level.
He uses the example of Rick Furrer,
Okay.
a master swordsmith who finds deep satisfaction in the intense concentration his craft demands.
Yeah.
That's the kind of fulfillment we're all seeking, but we're often looking for it in the wrong places.
So instead of chasing likes on social media, we
Well,
should be seeking that sense of accomplishment that comes from doing deep, meaningful work.
it's about finding satisfaction in the work itself rather than in the constant stream of external validation that our devices provide.
Right. Okay, so now that we understand the why of deep work, how do we actually start doing it?
Right.
Newport outlines 4 distinct philosophies
Yeah,
for integrating deep work into our lives.
he does.
All right.
Let's start with the most extreme,
Okay.
the monastic philosophy.
Right.
This approach involves eliminating or drastically reducing shallow obligations to focus almost exclusively on deep work.
Okay.
Think of it like joining a monastery, but for your work.
So for most of us with jobs and families, that's probably not realistic.
Right.
But the book does give the example of Neil Stephenson, a science fiction writer.
Yeah.
He avoids email and public appearances so he can focus on writing his novels.
Right. It's not for everyone.
Right.
But it highlights the principle of ruthlessly eliminating distractions to create space for deep work.
Okay, so what about something a little more,
Yeah.
let's say, achievable
Sure.
for the average person?
The bimodal philosophy might be more your speed. It's about alternating between long periods of deep work and periods where you're fully engaged with shallow work. Think Carl Jung retreating to his tower for months at a time,
Right.
but then returning to his practice and engaging with the world.
Or a college professor who dedicates the summer to research, then spends the semester teaching and attending meetings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding a rhythm that allows you to block off significant chunks of time for deep work,
Right.
even if you can't completely escape the shallows.
Right. So we've got the monastic and the bimodal.
Right.
What are the other 2 philosophies for integrating deep work?
Well, the rhythmic philosophy, that's all about establishing a daily routine
Okay.
that reliably produces deep work.
Mm-hmm.
It's like clockwork. Instead of waiting for these large chunks of time to appear,
Right.
you build deep work into the fabric of your day.
So maybe you schedule like a 90-minute deep work session every morning
Right.
before the distractions of the day take over.
Exactly. And the key here is consistency.
Oh.
The more you stick to that routine, the easier it becomes to slip into that deep work mindset.
Right.
You know, your brain starts to associate certain times and environments with focused concentration.
This feels a lot more manageable
Right.
for those of us who can't, just drop everything and retreat to a cabin in the woods.
Right. And lastly, we have the journalistic philosophy,
Okay. Yeah.
which is about fitting deep work in whenever you can.
Okay.
Much like a journalist, finding time to write between interviews and deadlines.
This is the approach Cal Newport himself uses.
It is.
Yeah.
He was inspired by Walter Isaacson.
Right.
Very disciplined writing habits.
Right.
While holding down a demanding job.
So we've got 4 very different philosophies.
We do.
The key is to find the one that best fits your individual circumstances and work style.
That's the beauty of it. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to deep work.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and building a system that supports your goals.
But regardless of which philosophy you choose, Newport provides some great tips for actually going deeper
Yes.
once you've carved out that focused time.
He does.
One that really caught my eye was the idea of grand gestures.
Ah, yes, grand gestures.
Yeah.
These are about making a deliberate, even dramatic commitment to deep work. It's about signaling to yourself and others that this time is sacred and non-negotiable.
It makes me think of J.K. Rowling checking into a luxury hotel suite to finish writing the last Harry Potter book, or Bill Gates and his famous Think Weeks, where he'd isolate himself in a cabin to focus on big-picture thinking.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment and a mindset that prioritizes deep work above all else.
But grand gestures don't always have to involve grand expenses, right?
No, not at all. It could be as simple as creating a dedicated workspace in your home, free from distractions, or establishing a pre-work ritual that helps you transition into a focused state of mind.
So grand gestures are about creating the right environment for deep work. But what about collaboration? Isn't deep work all about solo concentration?
It often is, but Newport also emphasizes the value of strategic collaboration.
Oh, okay.
It's not about working in a group all the time,
Right.
but about leveraging collaboration to enhance your individual deep work.
So how do you balance that need for focused solo work with the benefits of collaboration?
Well, he recommends using what he calls the hub and spoke model.
Okay.
You gather inspiration and insights in hubs, like meetings, conferences, or brainstorming sessions.
Yeah.
Then you retreat to your spoke to work deeply on what you've learned.
So you're getting the best of both worlds.
You are.
The energy and creativity of bouncing ideas off others.
Right.
Followed by the focused concentration needed to turn those ideas into something tangible.
Precisely. And finally, Newport encourages us to execute like a business
Okay.
when it comes to our deep work habits.
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
Should we be clocking in and out for deep work sessions?
Not necessarily. It's about applying the principles of focus and accountability to your deep work practice.
Okay.
He recommends adopting the framework from the 4 disciplines of execution.
Okay, I'm familiar with that book.
Yeah,
It's all about identifying your wildly important goals
it is.
and then relentlessly focusing on the activities that drive those goals. Right?
Exactly. So instead of just aiming to do more deep work,
Mm-hmm.
you would identify specific deep work goals.
Okay.
Maybe it's finishing a research paper,
Right.
writing a chapter of your book,
Mm-hmm.
or mastering a new coding language.
And then you track your progress using lead measure,
Yes.
which are the activities that directly contribute to those goals.
Exactly. So your lead measure might be the number of hours dedicated to deep work on that specific project.
Okay.
By tracking your lead measures,
Mm-hmm.
you ensure that your deep work efforts are aligned with your most important goals.
This is really resonating with me.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional and strategic with your deep work, not just randomly trying to fit it in whenever you can.
That's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
Deep work isn't about busyness.
Right.
It's about focused, deliberate effort
Mm-hmm.
applied to the things that matter most.
Okay, so we've covered the why, the how, and even the with whom of deep work, but there's still this nagging question. How do we actually train ourselves to be better at this?
Right.
Our brains are practically wired for distraction these days.
That's where embracing boredom comes in.
Okay.
It might sound counterintuitive,
Mm-hmm.
but allowing yourself to experience boredom
Right.
is actually a powerful way to strengthen your attention muscles.
Wait, hold on. Embrace boredom.
Yeah,
Isn't that the opposite of what we're trying to do here?
I know.
Deep work is about being fully engaged,
Right.
not bored out of your mind.
I understand the confusion, but think about it this way.
Okay.
We're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
Right.
Our brains are becoming addicted to novelty and distraction.
So we're actually training our brains to be distracted all the time.
In essence, yes. And that makes it much harder to focus when we actually need to.
Mm-hmm.
Embracing boredom is about giving your brain a break from that constant stimulation.
Okay.
It's like a detox for your attention span.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic here.
Yeah,
But how do we actually do that?
right.
Sit around and stare at a blank wall.
Not quite. Newport recommends establishing a strict shutdown ritual
Okay.
at the end of your workday.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to just stop working.
Right.
You need to consciously shut down your work brain.
So this is about more than just closing your laptop and calling it a day.
Exactly. It involves reviewing any incomplete tasks,
Mm-hmm.
making plans for their completion, and then consciously deciding to stop thinking about work until the next morning.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of letting work thoughts bleed into my evenings and weekends.
Right.
It's like my brain never really gets a chance to switch off.
It's a common problem, and it can lead to burnout and decreased productivity.
Right.
By having a shutdown ritual,
Mm-hmm.
you're signaling to your brain that it's time to rest and recharge.
Okay, that's going on my to-do list.
Good.
What are some other strategies for embracing boredom?
Well, Newport also recommends a practice he calls productive meditation.
Okay.
This is about training your mind to resist distraction during naturally idle periods like walking or commuting.
So instead of scrolling through my phone on my walk to work,
Right.
I should be using that time to focus on a specific problem.
Yeah, but the key here isn't to solve the problem,
Okay.
but simply to let your mind mull it over.
Hmm.
Choose a well-defined professional problem
Right.
and then focus intently on it during your walk.
Okay.
Don't try to force a solution. Just let your subconscious mind work on it in the background.
I like that. It's like turning your commute into a brainstorming session,
It is.
but without the pressure of having to come up with brilliant ideas on the spot.
Exactly. You could even use that time to practice another boredom-embracing technique,
Okay.
memorizing a deck of cards.
Wait, what? Memorizing cards?
Yeah.
How is that going to help me focus at work?
It might seem strange,
It does.
but it's a powerful way to train your memory, which can indirectly boost your ability to concentrate.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this memory training.
Well, professional memory athletes use a technique called the memory palace
Okay.
to memorize vast amounts of information.
Mm-hmm.
It involves associating each item you want to remember with a specific location in a familiar place, like your home.
So you're creating a mental map of information linked to a place you already know. Well, does it really work?
It's surprisingly effective, and by practicing this technique with something as simple as a deck of cards,
Yeah.
you're essentially giving your brain a workout in focused attention.
So it's like building mental muscle.
It is.
The more you practice, the stronger your concentration becomes.
Right.
And those strengthened concentration muscles can then be applied to any task that requires deep work.
Exactly.
You're training your mind to resist distraction and to stay focused on a single task, even when it's not particularly stimulating.
So even if I never become a professional card shark, this could still be a valuable exercise for improving my deep work ability.
Absolutely. It's all about building those foundational mental skills.
Okay, so we've talked about embracing boredom and training our attention muscles. But even with those skills, we still have to contend with the constant onslaught of shallow work,
Right.
vying for our time and attention.
Yeah,
It feels like a losing battle sometimes.
it can feel that way. But Newport offers some practical strategies for taming shallow work and taking back control of your workday.
Okay, give me the good stuff.
Right.
How do we fight back against this shallow work monster?
Well, it starts with awareness. Track your time for a week. And categorize your activities as either deep work or shallow work.
Okay.
You might be surprised by how much time you're actually spending on shallow tasks.
I have a feeling I'm not going to like what I see. It can be eye-opening, but that awareness is crucial.
Okay.
Once you see the true cost of shallow work, you can start making more conscious choices about how you spend your time.
So awareness is step one. What's next?
Step 2 is to schedule every minute of your workday in advance.
Wait, every minute? That sounds a bit extreme, doesn't it?
It might seem that way, but it's incredibly effective for avoiding those time sucks that can derail your day. By planning your day in advance, you're less likely to get pulled into unproductive meetings or endless email chains.
So it's about being proactive rather than reactive with my time. Yeah, like that. What else?
Become hard to reach.
Okay.
This one might sound a bit harsh,
Right.
but it's about setting boundaries and protecting your time and attention.
I'm all for setting boundaries. How do I actually do that in a professional setting?
Well, it could involve using sender filters for your email, setting specific times when you're available for meetings,
Right.
or even just being more strategic about when you check your messages.
So it's not about being rude or dismissive.
No.
It's about being more intentional with my communication and protecting my deep work time.
Precisely. And when you do respond to emails,
Yeah.
make sure you're doing more work, not just generating more back and forth.
Ouch, that one hits home.
Yeah.
I'm so guilty of sending short reactive replies that just end up prolonging the conversation.
It's a common trap, but it could be a huge time waster.
Right.
Instead, try to craft responses that move projects forward, provide all the necessary information, and ideally eliminate the need for further replies.
So it's about being more thoughtful and efficient with my email communication.
It is.
Not just trying to get through my inbox as quickly as possible. What else can I do to tame the shallow work beast?
Develop the discipline to simply not respond
Okay.
to emails that don't require a response.
Well, seriously, can I actually do that?
You can't.
Won't people think I'm ignoring them?
You can and you should not. Every email deserves a reply
Okay.
if it's not important, not relevant to your goals, or just a general FYI.
Right.
Don't feel obligated to respond.
That's incredibly liberating.
It is.
I never really thought about it that way, but I can see how that would free up so much time and mental energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also sends a message that your time is valuable
Right.
and you're not always available at a moment's notice.
So we're talking about quantifying shallow work, scheduling our time becoming hard to reach, and being more intentional with email.
Yes.
It's about taking back control.
It is. It's
Yeah.
about being more intentional, more strategic, and more disciplined with how you work. And it's about recognizing that deep work is the real key to success and fulfillment in the knowledge economy.
It's like a superpower.
It is.
In a world of distractions, the ability to focus is becoming increasingly valuable.
Precisely. And,
Yeah.
and it's a skill that anyone can cultivate with the right mindset and strategies.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. We explored the power of deep work, the philosophies for integrating it into our lives, and even some ninja-level strategies for training our attention and taming those shallow work distractions. But I think the biggest question for our listeners is this. How do we fit it all together?
Yeah.
How do we make deep work a sustainable part of our lives?
That's where the idea of ritualizing deep work comes in. It's about moving beyond just finding time for deep work to actually weaving it into the fabric of your day, making it a habit.
So it's not just about willpower or motivation. It's about creating a system, a routine that makes deep work automatic.
You got it. And one of the most effective ways to do that is to schedule it into your day, just like you would any other important appointment.
Treat it like a meeting with your most important client, yourself.
Exactly.
Jack, that analogy.
Block out time in your calendar for deep work, and then protect that time fiercely. No meetings, no emails, no distractions. Just you and your most important work.
And this is where those deep work philosophies we talked about earlier come into play, right?
Played you.
You choose the one that resonates with you and build a schedule that supports that approach.
Absolutely. If you're a rhythmic deep worker, you might schedule a block of focused time every morning, while a journalistic worker might grab those moments of depth whenever they appear.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and sticking to it.
And don't forget those grand gestures.
Right.
They can be powerful tools for ritualizing deep work as well.
You're right. It could be as simple as setting up a dedicated workspace.
Right.
Or maybe taking a short walk before each deep work session to clear your head and transition into that focused mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating those rituals that signal to your brain, okay, it's deep work time.
It's almost like creating a sacred space for deep work in our lives.
It is.
But this is a lot to absorb.
It is a lot.
What would you say are the most important takeaways for our listeners, the things they should really remember as they embark on their own deep work journeys?
I think one of the most crucial insights from deep work is that our culture of constant connectivity is actually making us worse at the very things that are most valuable in the knowledge economy. Thinking critically, solving complex problems, and producing truly innovative work.
It's like we're trading our long-term potential for the instant gratification of social media notifications and email pings.
It's a tough trade-off.
It is.
And it's a problem that extends far beyond individual productivity. It
Right.
impacts our businesses, our education systems, even our ability to engage in meaningful conversations and solve collective problems.
That's a pretty sobering thought. But if I'm understanding Newport correctly, he's not saying we need to completely disconnect from the digital world.
No.
It's more about being intentional with our technology and using it in a way that supports deep work, not hinders it.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming our time and attention and directing them towards the things that truly matter. It's about becoming masters of our craft, true craftsmen in the knowledge economy.
So it's not about becoming Luddites and throwing our smartphones into the ocean. It's about using technology as a tool for deep work, not a distraction from it.
Precisely. And that begins with making a conscious decision to prioritize deep work. What's your wildly important goal? What's that one thing professionally or personally that you really want to achieve?
Right.
What steps can you take today to start cultivating a deep work practice that supports that goal?
That's a great question for our listeners to ponder. We've given you the tools and the strategies. Now it's up to you to put them in action.
It's time to go deep.
Remember, deep work isn't just about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about focusing on what truly matters and creating work that is meaningful, impactful, and ultimately fulfilling.
Well said.
So close those tabs, silence your phone, and carve out some time for deep work. Your most important work is waiting. We'll see you on the next deep dive.